Jim McCauley here, your legislative director. We've got two staff folks here from Department of Transportation that are going to be providing a presentation here over the next 45 minutes to an hour. They're going to go straight into their presentation once I kind of finish just some opening remarks. So we're going to have this webinar up online and available for you to take a look at in the future, as well as pass on to other folks. I think for a framework today on the presentation, please put your questions into chat and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. It's not the opening remarks or their opening presentation is not going to last 40 minutes or that nature. So we're hopefully going to be able to get into a bunch of questions as we get into this. Feel free to raise your hand, of course, too, during that time frame once the presentation is complete. So the quick background on this is we've written about it a couple of times in our bulletin in early part of 2021. A lot of the work that went into these changes was a result of revenue issues that Department of Transportation was having in relation really to the scale of projects that were being built across the state, and kind of essentially how you try to balance those projects with ongoing maintenance and operations needs. It's going to be an ongoing problem for us and concern. We had a chance to sit down with ODOT along with our county partners, Association of Oregon Counties, and essentially come up with an agreement going forward to help trim some of that cost curve down, but also provide ODOT with some flexibility to at least address some of their ongoing maintenance and operations needs. So this will not be the last time you hear about the issue because I think the next transportation plan that we're going to be looking at in the future here is definitely going to have to address the operations and maintenance component going forward. We can't keep adding additional revenue into the system without addressing some of those core needs at the state level. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Alice and Shelley, and feel free to go. It's all yours.
All right, thank you. And appreciate you guys having us. I am Alice Bibler. I am the Program and Funding Services Manager. And I'd like to introduce you to Shelley Boker, who manages the STBG program. Shelley has been with ODOT for over 32 years. She's been an accountant with DMV, motor carrier, and she used to deal with federal highway billings before she came to our unit. Shelley is an incredible asset and has a broad knowledge base. Feel free to contact her with any fund exchange questions or concerns. I will say that this program is just a sliver of all the things she's responsible for. Her customers are all the cities, the counties, ODOT employees, and the federal employees as well. So please be patient if you don't get an immediate response. Also, we have soft phones and they're supposed to work over our computers, but it might be a better bet to email Shelley. So just putting that out there. As for me, I grew up in Eastern Oregon. My family came to Oregon before the Civil War, and I actually started my career at ODOT. I've worked for a county road department, and I have also visited every county road department in the state when I worked for AOC for a short time. My previous job was selling bonds for ODOT at the state treasurer's office, and I've been back at ODOT since March of last year. One of the things I was tasked with was taking a look at our programs with fresh eyes and seeing where we can make some efficiency improvements. And so the Fund Exchange program was the first program we tackled. So first we looked at the federal funding source, which is the STBG. And I'm assuming you're all familiar with this fund. These were supposed to be the most flexible. So with that in mind, I'm going to share my screen and show you the changes we made to the Fund Exchange program. Excuse me. So one of the first things that is the way that it used to be was that ODOT would create an intergovernmental agreement for a project. and that it would be paid on a reimbursement basis. So that was the old way that we did it. So what we did was we went to the AG's office, the Department of Justice, and asked them, could we have one general IGA that lasts the entire STIP cycle? And they actually agreed to it. We've got a little bit of wording in there that basically states that the dollar amount you can't exceed is what is going to be posted on our webpage. So we have an updated template of that IGA on our local government funding webpage. So if you would like to go take a look at that, you could have your attorneys take a look at it before you even get it executed to make sure that it looks okay. However, we likely won't make any changes to it because we are trying to keep costs down, and every time we go back to DOJ for every little change, it costs money. So we tried to make it a template that was generic enough, and it will last for several years. So that is one of the major changes that we've done. The second is that it used to be very limited on what the funds could be used for, but that really wasn't the intent. So we have opened it up so that the funds can be used on any gas tax eligible activities. Before, it had a lot more ODOT oversight. And what we decided is that we're going to put it on the local governments as to the responsible use of the funds. So I believe in both the IGA as well as in the funding letter, you basically sign off that you will use it for eligible activities only. In the past, the funding requests were not standardized. We'd get all sorts of types of requests. And what we did was we put a standardized letter. The template is on our webpage as well, with all the information that we need in order to expedite the payment process. And Shelley is able to get out those payments pretty darn quick now. So I think that template has helped quite a bit. In the past, we had random payment methods. With the pandemic, we have found that electronic transfers is a much better way for you to receive your payments. You're going to get them faster so that folks don't have to come into the office in order to process paper checks. In the past, ODOT required proof of proper use of funds for each project. Now we're going to just randomly review a portion of the payments that we've sent out. So, back to it's on the local government's responsibility to use the funds properly. So it would be a good idea to keep some sort of reports or records so that if you are asked for proof that you would be able to provide that. In the past, the funds were typically provided on a reimbursement basis, and now the funds can be requested prior to the project being started or completed. Again, you just have to be able to provide proof that it was used on gas tax eligible activities. And finally, in the past, balances were not readily available to local government agencies. And now we've put that pretty much all the information about this program on our webpage. And so you'll be able to find what your balance is, as well as any funds that will be lapsing. So what hasn't changed? Local governments don't have to deal with federal regulations or ODOT. So that's probably one of the biggest ones. Project work cannot start until an IGA is in place. So you do have to have your IGA in place, but at least now it will last for several years. Funding must be available in the year that the projects or items will be completed or delivered. So you can't borrow from future allocations, and that's not anything different than what we've done in the past. Once exchanged, you can use the state money as a match for eligible federal aid projects. It would not be eligible as a match on a federal aid project that is off system, however. And again, that's nothing new. Also, local governments may carry unused funds forward into future years. However, we're not quite sure why you would want to do that. It seems like you would want to keep the interest on your money, but if you want ODOT to do that for you, I'm sure we're willing. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Shelley.
So what's coming up? Oh, thank you. what's coming up in the future is that this is the last year that the allocation rate is going to be 94 cents on the dollar. Beginning with the allocations that come out in 2022, which I should start getting put together here at any time. It's going to be 90 cents on the dollar. The 90 cents doesn't apply to anything that was allocated prior to 2022. So if you happen to still have some old allocation out there, the 2022 is the only one that's going to be affected by the 90 cents. Everything prior to that is 94 still. What I need in order to get this project or this exchange started for anyone is the name, the contact name, phone number, physical address, and email address of the person who would be responsible to be the contact for the IGA, not necessarily the people that are signing it, but the person that we can go to with questions if there are any. Once I receive those, I can get the IGA set up and sent out to you for signature. Once you return it to me with a signature, I have Alice and Jeff sign it, and I will return a copy of the fully executed IGA to you, at which time you would be able to submit a letter of request for your funds, any or all, preferably all. But I do understand that there's sometimes some barricades in people requesting all of their funds at one time. If you could fax or snail mail the electronic bank transfer information in to our financial services, that would get your vendor number set up so we can do an automatic transfer rather than writing a paper check. Things aren't going to stop if you're not set up for electronic transfer, but it does, as Alice mentioned earlier, it does make it a little easier and quicker to do a transfer as opposed to an actual paper check. Like Alice said, the soft phones are not really a great way of getting a hold of me because they aren't as reliable as I would like it to be. So my email is the best way of getting a hold of me. And or if you happen to leave a message, a follow-up email, that sometimes helps too. I never know when I come in if the phone is actually going to work on any given day. So it just doesn't seem to like me. And on the internet, there's a lot of information out there about the program that you can take a look at. Yes, where Alice is pointing with her little hand. So also coming up next year, we're going to, I think you can change to the draft document.
Okay, do you want to show them where it is on this page here? Or the section that you're referencing?
You mean the,
For the 4-year lapse.
4 years. So yes, coming up next year, we're going to start enforcing or adhering to the 4-year lapse in funds. Up to this point, we've allowed, even though it's in the main IGA, that we would only allow 4 years of accumulation to sit in your balance. We've not ever adhered to that, but we're going to start doing that in the next year. So we've come up with a spreadsheet that will be out on the internet site that shows, this is just a draft, so don't think that you're only going to get $10 next year. I just needed to plug some numbers in there to make it work for my benefit. The farthest right column is the column that you should probably be most concerned about, as those are the funds that could possibly lapse at the end of next year if you don't draw down your allocations. Like I said, we're not going to hold on to those funds or let those funds sit out there and linger for years and years and years waiting for a big project. You're going to have to draw them and use them appropriately. And I think you can see that there's a few, oh, the end of next year, sorry, is 12/31/22. So you have the rest of this year to work on it, or once the allocation comes in January of next year, you're going to want to draw down your funds so you don't lose any.
And with that, I think we're willing to take any questions.
Leanne, what is your city? So my guess is that you aren't in the, what's the population of Bay City?
We're about 1,300.
It starts at 5,000.
Okay, so we're not even involved in any of this.
Bummer.
All right, thank you.
Shelley, wouldn't she be part of the small city allotment program?
Yes. She is, or would be. So
Would be, yeah.
Bend is a special, Bend is a part of an MPO, and we've removed the MPOs off of this list for the time being. And yeah, definitely special. I'm gonna pull up the chat because I think that I've missed questions. Okay, end of next year. I answered end of next year, so 12/30/22. So David asked if you can accrue 4 years and do a project in the 5th year. And I want to say that's 1 year too long.
My question is, why would you not take the money if you could use it for any gas tax eligible activities, including salaries for your, your road employees? It does not have to be a project.
Yeah, and this is Dave. So that's a new way for us to be thinking about it.
Yep.
Fuel, potentially lapsing funds is a use it or lose it. If you don't pull the funds go away. Just the lapsing funds, of course, not anything in that 4-year period, but everything that hasn't been accessed prior to it. And Bryce, I think that you've been pulling some of yours out for your bridge projects, but at some point you're going to need to pull more in order for it to not lapse. Since you have a pretty decent balance in there. And Haley from Hood River, you have a 0 balance. So it's really just the cities that have red in that far right column that are potentially have funds that are going to lapse. So since you have, if you have no funds sitting there now, there's nothing that will lapse at the end of 22. And okay. Have I answered all the questions so far, or have we answered all the questions so far?
I am not seeing anything else in here. There was one question that did come up about materials. So the presentation materials. So yeah, we'll have all of that posted for folks after this webinar is complete sometime this afternoon, and we'll also have the recording up as well.
And this particular draft document won't be posted to the website yet. There's still a little bit of work to be done, and it won't get posted until the beginning of next year when the new allocations come out. So there should be accurate numbers in there. Alice, you want to take that one?
That's why we say that you need to contact your own. The question is there a list of gas tax eligible activities? That is why we are putting the responsibility back on the local governments to contact your own attorneys to make sure that what you are doing is eligible. However, pretty much what you're doing now is likely gas tax eligible. So you have funds right now that you're responsible for using for those activities. So again, that'd be something to ask your own attorney to make sure that you're using it on eligible items. It is in the Oregon Constitution, so. So Shelley, let's go back up.
Yeah.
I won't take it back up. There we go. So on the main ODOT page, we were asked how to find this information. There's a picture of bicycles saying funding grants. And if you go to the funding for local governments and then scroll down to almost the bottom where it has surface transportation block grant fund exchange, that's where the information is. And we should mention that you still can get 100%, but then you have to do the project as a full federal aid project. So that is still an option. We just changed the fund exchange side to make it more flexible. All right. Anything else?
Alice, this is Julia. It looks like we may have lost Jim.
Uh-oh.
So if there's any other closing comments.
Just don't hesitate to call us if you have any questions. Shelley,
Or email.
not call us, email us. Sorry about that.
I mean, the phone may work,
You never know.
but then again, it may not. So
Well, great. Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing this presentation. It's been really helpful, I think, and it'll be helpful to others as we put it on our website and get the word out. So we really appreciate it.
You bet. Anytime.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for attending. And we will have this up in the next few days and look for a link in the bulletin as well if you want to share it. So thanks again for participating, and we'll see you at our next webinar.
thank
you.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.